She's 20 years younger than me, and she's pregnant, so let's get a divorce.
Suddenly, my husband brings his mistress to our home, and then he asks me for a divorce. Honestly, our marriage has been falling apart for a while now. I no longer love my husband, who goes out without taking care of our children or doing any household chores. Okay, here's the divorce papers. I'm taking everyone except our oldest son. I hand over the divorce papers to my husband and say that to him. Then my husband says something shocking.
Huh? You can take our oldest son too.
I couldn't believe it. That's impossible because this child is... When I confronted him with the truth, my husband was dumbfounded and fell to his knees. I am Catherine, and I'm 51 years old. I'm a housewife. I got married to my husband, John, 14 years ago. Our meeting was through a mutual introduction. In the past, I worked at a web design company as a web designer, focused on my work, and haven't had any romance for many years. And my colleagues introduced me to him because they were worried about me. My husband was friendly and good at having conversations. Even though I hadn't been much into dating, the time I spent with my husband was fun, and I thought we could build a fun family if we got married. However, the journey to marriage was not easy. My husband was a divorcee and had a child. It seemed that his previous wife had left the house, leaving the child behind, and he said he was working while raising the child. When I consulted with my family and friends about it, they all told me it was definitely better not to marry him. You'll struggle after marriage. Everyone would say the same thing to me. But for me, even this obstacle only ignited my feelings of love for John. I thought I had to support him, who was a single father. Since then, I have been meeting with my husband's eldest son, Alex, more frequently. Alex, what are you going to play today? I'm not playing with you. Then, do you want to eat something? I'll cook anything for you. No. Alex didn't trust me at all. I wonder if it's because I have no experience in raising a child. When I felt anxious, my husband always comforted me.
It's okay. Alex will understand someday. Thank you for taking my son so seriously.
I was happy to hear that, so I was okay even if I was rejected by my eldest son. I'll love him like my own child when we get married.
I'm glad you love Alex and that I met you.
When I think about it now, I might have been conceited, thinking that I was mentally supporting my husband. And then, half a year into dating, I found out I was pregnant and we got married. My eldest daughter, Cherry, and my second son, Albert, were born the following year, and I became a mother of 3. Since I gave birth to 2 kids, I was swamped with childcare every single day. However, my husband didn't help me at all.
Catherine, Albert is crying.
Can you comfort him for a bit? I can't take my hands off right now.
Me? No way. He wants his mother, doesn't he?
My husband, who pushed my crying second son onto me while I was taking care of my eldest daughter, would just play around with his smartphone. My husband always came home late and was drunk. On his days off, he went out casually and came home in the evening, so there was no time for him to do any childcare or even any time for me to talk with my husband. And I didn't have time to sleep, taking care of the children every day. Stress just kept building up. Can you help me a bit?
Huh? I'm tired from work. What's a person who's at home all day saying? Raising a child is a woman's job.
I couldn't believe it. If I knew he was like this, I wouldn't have married him. I felt deceived. But when I thought about my newborn children, I couldn't divorce easily. Taking care of my rebellious Albert and Cherry, who were in their terrible 2s, was really hard. Still, I tried desperately to become their mother. The relationship with Alex remained distant, and he hardly spoke to me. I woke him up in the morning and fed him to send him to elementary school, but we hardly had any conversation. I was too busy taking care of the younger children and didn't have the capacity to care about Alex. Several years later, when the eldest son became a junior high school student, he entered his rebellious phase. "Alex, have you finished your homework instead of reading comic books all the time?"
Shut up!
"Shut up? I'm saying this for your own good, you know."
That's why it's so annoying. Don't play the mother role.
This is what Alex would always spout and not listen to what I say. In the end, I decided to consult with my husband about Alex's behavior. "Could you try talking to Alex a bit? He's not studying, just playing all day, and he doesn't listen to anything I say. Is this because of his rebellious phase?"
Isn't that because of the way you raised him? Because you neglected him so far, he doesn't listen, right?
What? I don't want to hear that from you, who didn't do any parenting and just played around.
You think I was just playing around?
John, enraged, stood up. "No, you're always out drinking. You never help me when I'm busy."
I can't help it if I have social commitments. This is part of my job too. You're living off my salary. Don't act so arrogant.
I couldn't say anything to that. I quit my job because parenting was busy. My living expenses are solely the money my husband provides for me. He only gives me the bare minimum, so we're barely making a living. Of course, I don't have any money that I can use freely. That's why when it comes to money, I can't talk back to him. However, Alex's behavior is getting worse and worse, and there are days when he doesn't come home until late at night, even though he's in middle school. I thought he was going to become a delinquent or something at this rate. Despite my best efforts to persuade both Alex and my husband, they wouldn't listen. Before I knew it, I was fighting with my husband every day. And then the days when my husband didn't come home increase. This lifestyle continued for many years. I was past 50 and Alex was a senior in high school. I thought we would understand each other when his rebellious phase was over, but the reality doesn't go the way you wanted it to. Even now, he ignores me or only yells at me and verbally abuses me when I try to talk to him. We couldn't even have a decent conversation. My husband was coming home in the mornings more often, and our married life was collapsing. Then one day, something happened. My husband brought a young woman home. Who is this?
My girlfriend, who's 20 years younger than me, is pregnant. So please, let's get a divorce.
My husband started begging on his knees as he said that. To be honest, I wasn't surprised because I had noticed for a long time that my husband was having an affair. However, I couldn't believe that he brought her to this house where we have children. The woman he was having an affair with smiled at me. "Nice to meet you. I'm Amy." I was amazed that she could smile knowing that it was an affair. She is said to be 35 years old, 20 years younger than my husband. She's wearing a revealing outfit and heavy makeup. It's a big difference from me, who's starting to show wrinkles.
I honestly don't see you as a woman anymore, and I want to take responsibility for her child, so please, let's get a divorce.
I had reached the limit of my patience with these selfish people. I have been patient for the sake of our children and our life, but now I have no love left for my husband. I have been struggling all this time while he had been playing around. I decided to take revenge on my husband, to make him realize the hardships I went through. To his unusual plea, I nodded, agreeing to his proposal. Okay, fine.
Are you okay with that?
My husband was surprised and raised his voice in disbelief, perhaps because I had agreed too easily. Of course. Here's the divorce papers. I'll take everyone with me except for Alex. When I said that, my husband frowned suspiciously.
What? Take Alex with you too.
I couldn't believe what my husband was saying. That's impossible because Alex is your son, right? I'm not related by blood with him, and he and I don't get along.
I don't care about that. You said you would love him as your real son.
Yes, that's right. I've always treated him as if he was my real family. I never distinguished between my biological and non-biological children. I always cared for them in my own way.
Then take responsibility until the end.
John's words prompted his mistress to speak. Yes, I can't be a mother to a high school student. You should take care of him since you're much older. Right now, Alex is home and probably can hear this conversation. He never warmed up to me due to his rebellious phase, but this is really too much for him and I felt bad for him. He is your son you had with your ex-wife. Take responsibility and look after him.
What? You're heartless.
Who's heartless here? You've never taken part in raising our kids, so who are you to say that? If you're not going to take care of him, I won't divorce you. John scratches his head in annoyance. He then lets out a heavy sigh.
All right. I'll take care of Alex.
What? I can't be a mother to your son.
Sorry, but please bear with him for a few more years.
What? Well, it can't be helped then. I'll forgive you if you buy me a new bag from my favorite brand. John laughs foolishly and agrees to Amy. With the two of them looking as if they are about to start being lovey-dovey right there, I pull out the divorce papers. Can you sign these quickly? I'll go file them tomorrow.
All right. You're such an impatient woman.
While complaining, John signs the paper. I receive the signed divorce papers and securely put them into my bag.
By the way, will you be okay after the divorce? You don't have a job or a place to live. I feel sorry for the kids.
John smirks as he says that. He probably thinks I'm just a housewife with no savings. Thanks for worrying, but I have a job, so I'll be fine.
Huh? You started working? But it's part-time work, isn't it? You won't be able to make ends meet with such a small salary.
It's not part-time. I started my old job in web design. As long as I have a computer, I can work from home. Last month, I made over $2,500, so I won't have any problems living.
Huh.
John seems frustrated. I had used my savings from when I worked years ago to buy a computer and started working as a web designer from home. Having had the experience, I was able to get to work immediately and was saving for when I would eventually get a divorce. The reason I could hand over the divorce papers so easily was because I had prepared everything for this moment. Not knowing this, John, who thought he had the upper hand, I laughed at him. Anyway, are you guys going to be okay?
What do you mean?
Child support. I'll be receiving child support until Cherry and Albert become adults. John frowns. It's only natural that he would have to pay for his own children. Just because we're divorced, it doesn't mean he can abandon his parental responsibilities. Let's discuss the amount and make a contract through a lawyer later. It's for 2 kids, so I think it will be around $300 per month.
$300 per month? It's too much.
What are you talking about? Right now, our child is a middle schooler. It costs money for club activities, personal tutors, and so on. Child support isn't just food and utilities. If anything, it's not enough.
Does it really cost that much?
John had never been involved with the household finances, so he didn't know. Our children, Cherry and Albert, who are part of the athletics club, need quite a bit of money for shoes, uniforms, and practice gears. It also costs some money when they have games away from their school. Even with a monthly allowance of $200 per person, it wouldn't be enough. Oh yeah, your girlfriend already knows too, right? About what? I looked at his mistress and smiled. The compensation, right? You've been having an affair for years, so you'll have to pay for the damages. I'm not really sure until I consult with a lawyer, but it seems to be around $25,000, so be prepared.
What? I didn't hear anything about that. I don't know anything about it.
You think that because you're over 30 and you don't know, so you're excused from it? Besides, we have all the evidence, so playing dumb won't help. When my husband stopped coming home, I hired a detective agency to investigate about his affair. Since then, I've known that he was dating his mistress and even have photos of them together. There's no escaping now that all the evidence is gathered. Especially now that she's pregnant, there's no doubt he cheated, so there's no escaping. But she screamed with anger, unwilling to acknowledge the truth.
I don't have that kind of money. I don't even have savings. I'm about to have a child.
I don't care. If you can't afford it, why don't you ask your husband standing next to you to pay? Amy grabbed John's shoulder and shook him.
You're going to pay, right?
I can only afford child support. You'll have to pay on your own.
Why? You're the one earning money. You should pay.
I spent everything on gifts for you. How much do you think I spent on those gifts I gave you?
What? You're seriously useless. I didn't hear anything about you not having money.
The atmosphere between the two, who were so pleasant when they arrived, had turned sour, and I had to laugh. After all, she was probably after his money. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dated a man in his 50s. It's my husband's fault for laying a hand on another woman while still being married to me. However, if Amy continued the relationship knowing it was an affair, she's just as guilty. I wouldn't be satisfied unless she also paid me the amount I request for.
First of all, I thought of marrying you because you promised not to make me suffer and to buy me whatever I wanted. I don't know anything about compensation. I won't pay.
You can refuse if you want, but I'm going to consult a lawyer. Shall we meet in court? When I intentionally mentioned the word court, she stood up in a panic.
No way! I don't want to marry such an old man and go into debt. Especially with a son who's going to college. I really don't want that. I'm leaving.
Wait!
Amy grabbed her bag and dashed out the door. John tried to stop her, but she shoved him aside and he ended up on the floor. It was a ridiculous sight. Oh, she ran away.
It's not, oh, because of you this happened.
John, now furious, got up. What? If you're going to hit me, I'll call the police.
You, acting so high and mighty, you'll be punished for ruining this marriage.
At John's words, I burst out laughing.
Punished?
Then you'll be punished for neglecting me and our family, won't you? John glared at me in silence, looking frustrated. He probably still doesn't fully understand the situation. So I decided to drop one more bomb on him. By the way, the tuition for our son, Alex's entrance fee, is due this week. Be careful.
What?
So I told you, Alex is going to be a university student soon, right? You'll need to pay the entrance fee to enroll him, so that's why I'm telling you to pay it. You're going to take care of Alex, right? Upon saying this, my husband was dumbfounded. He has been neglecting Alex for many years, so he probably has no idea about the school he will be attending or how much it will cost.
How much is it anyway?
It's a private university, so it's about $12,000.
12,000? There's no way I can afford that.
Well, that's the amount you pay in the first year. After that, I think it will cost around $10,000 each year for tuition fees and facility fees, so do your best.
You're joking, right?
I was surprised to learn that private university tuition fees are so high because I attended a public university and didn't know much about how it cost. John also attended a public university, so he probably never thought it would come to this.
Why did you let him enroll in such an expensive university?
It's not my fault. I told Alex to study, but he wouldn't listen, and you didn't do anything when I consulted with you.
Even so, to let him enroll in such a university without my consent? I won't accept this.
Then why don't you talk to him about it? Alex is the one who decided to go to that university. Upon saying this, John fell silent. Perhaps he doesn't know how to deal with Alex because he has neglected his parenting duties until now. I have no intention of worrying about the two of them. Well, we'll gather our things and leave. As I said this and stood up, John suddenly tried to hold me back.
Wait, let's try again.
What are you talking about?
No, I've reconsidered. I think it's better not to divorce for the sake of our children.
John sounded serious. However, his words about our children were all excuses. You just don't want to pay child support and division of property, do you? I don't want to. I can't live with you anymore.
Why not? I've broken up with Amy, and I won't cheat anymore, so let's try again.
Absolutely not. I can't imagine living with someone who doesn't take care of his children, plays around, and impregnates someone 20 years younger than him. It seems you've misunderstood something. I didn't agree to divorce because you said you wanted to.
Then why?
I've wanted to divorce you for a long time, but I couldn't because I didn't have the money. I've been working hard and saving up, so it's just the right time. Even if you hadn't said you wanted a divorce, I would have proposed it to you.
You're kidding.
John was speechless. Perhaps he thought he was loved by me. I'm not a saint who can love a man who has done such terrible things to me.
But the children would prefer to have both parents together. Divorce is bad for their education and for their mental health.
John said this. That's when Cherry and Albert, who had been listening to our conversation, burst out of their rooms.
I don't want to live with a father like him.
I can't either.
Cherry, Albert, how can you say such things to your father?
The children came to my side and glared at John.
Don't act like a father when you've never done anything before. It's really disgusting for a person like you to cheat on Mom all the time. I don't want to think of a person like you as my parent. It's much better to live just with Mom after divorce.
You guys?
John seemed more shocked than angry. He stood there with his mouth open in surprise. Don't underestimate them just because they're kids. They can see what adults do, and they definitely can judge right from wrong. You still think you're liked by your kids because you're their father?
But what I did was wrong, so forgive me. I'll do anything. I'll buy you anything you want, and I'll take you wherever you want to go.
We don't need such things. I don't even want to see you.
Upon hearing the children's words, John finally fell to his knees. Did he really think he could bribe and win over his children with things? If so, he is severely underestimating them. The kids knew I was struggling since they were in elementary school. They are considerate enough to worry about me. They will not forgive John easily. We gathered our things and left the house without saying a word to John, who was sitting down. In the end, I divorced John. I'm sure John is struggling with a division of property and child support. Apparently, he's being asked to pay child support to his mistress, who has also given birth to their child. If he continues to pay child support until the children are adults, he will have to keep paying even after retirement. He messed around with a younger girl because he preferred younger women, but he really did a stupid thing. And because he never did any housework before, his house is in a terrible state. Apparently, he can't even do laundry properly and is using the same wrinkled shirt over and over again, which is making him unpopular at work and in his neighborhood. His kids and mistress have left him. He has no one to rely on. He has no money to play around with, and I hear he's like a zombie. But that's none of my business anymore. And so, we started a new life. Cherry, Albert, you'll be late for middle school.
Okay.
Both of them put their bags on their shoulders and ran to the entrance. Alex, you need to leave soon too, or you'll be late.
Yeah, you're so noisy.
Alex, the eldest son, also dressed in a suit and headed for the entrance. The day I divorced my husband, when I was about to leave the house with my belongings, Alex was standing in the hallway. He must have been listening to our conversation all along. Unable to ignore him, I spoke to him. What do you want to do? After much deliberation, my eldest son decided to come with me. To be honest, if I paid for my eldest son's tuition, life would be tough from then on. But my eldest son is a victim too. He must have been devastated when his biological parents said they didn't want to take him in. His rough times during his student years were largely influenced by the environment back at home. A father who never comes home and is always out playing. And me, who couldn't pay attention to him because I was too busy taking care of the younger kids. When he needed a parent, Alex was always left alone. I couldn't just abandon him like that. When we arrived at the new apartment, Alex said that he was going to quit college.
You don't have to pay for my tuition. I'll earn it.
I was glad to hear my son's sentiment, but I honestly didn't think he could get a decent job as a high school graduate. So, I made a proposal to my son. Why don't you study programming?
Programming?
Yes, in this internet society, if you can do codes and programming, you won't have trouble finding a job. Study seriously for a year and try to get a job. Until then, I will provide all your expenses. With that, my son listened to me surprisingly and studied hard. In just 6 months, he was good enough to get a job, and this year he was hired as a full-time employee. The children, in suit and uniforms, are making a fuss at the entrance.
Don't talk to Mom like that. It's rude.
Anyone who complains won't get a ride in the car.
Liar. Give us a ride.
Bro, don't get into an accident.
Cherry and Albert, who were previously afraid of Alex and didn't even talk to him, are now completely attached to him. And the 3 children who had finished putting on their shoes turned around and looked at me.
We're off.
All the children left the house after saying that. I never thought this day would come. I finally feel like I've become a family with Alex. I vowed once again in my heart to do my best for the happiness of my children from now on.